Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today is Spotlight, headlines, all the things I've called it before, but three things that I found on the internet, on the inner tubes, on the interwebs for the week of December 9th. Today is December 12th, and one thing I want to mention on December 10th, if you didn't catch this episode, my last episode, I had a gentleman named Dr. Benjamin Woodford on, and he invented a product called Paraboards. That was one of the most educational and fun times I've had on the podcast because I personally am not in a wheelchair. So anything I can learn about that part of our community, I like to learn more about. But this invention has to do with something that it connects to the wheelchair and enables it to go upwards of 25 miles an hour. If you want to learn more about that item, go to paraboards.com and certainly go to my latest episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast, which came out December 10th of 2024. Thank you, Dr. Ben, as he's called. Thank you, Dr. Ben, for coming on to the podcast and discussing your great product. So let's get right into it today. The three top stories, the three headlines, whatever you want to call it, that I found for the week. And this is number one. This comes courtesy of Alyssa Guzman, and this is from the Daily Mail. And the headline goes, Good Samaritan's decision to pull over and help stranded driver led to amputation horror. I'm going to have some comments on this after I read a few lines of this. It starts out with a Florida man who stopped to help a stranded driver was forced to have his leg amputated after another driver crashed into him. A gentleman in Fort Lauderdale was going home from the gym around midnight on August 11th when he noticed a man pushing his car up the street after running out of gas. After stopping to help alongside another Good Samaritan, the three had started to talk about love and compassion as they moved the vehicle when disaster struck. A driver, I'm going to leave the names out, who was 29 years old, allegedly crashed into them from behind, trapping Ezreal between the two vehicles, according to the Sun Sentinel. When he looked down, he noticed both of his legs had broken off. Murray, name of the person I said I wasn't going to say. Anyway, Murray allegedly fled the scene and is still at large, according to the Sun Sentinel. This is all out there. You can read this yourself. I'm just keeping the names out because I want to talk more about this topic. Since the crash, Ezreal has had to have his right leg amputated, and the doctors are working hard to save his left leg. He's battled infections and has been in and out of the hospital, garnering more than $1 million in medical debt. Here's a quote from him. The most difficult part was just to realize that I don't have a leg anymore, and that's somebody else's fault. And that person didn't even pay attention, he told the outlet. That's going to be difficult, and it's going to be different for my whole life, different lifestyle, getting used to different things. Fort Lauderdale police had issued a warrant for Murray's arrest. The woman had 2 prior criminal misdemeanor cases involving traffic incidents in 2019 and 2018, according to the outlet. Well, this continues on. He has a GoFundMe page. So if you want to go to, I'm going to click into this. So if you want to go to the GoFundMe, and it says support Yevon Henny's road to recovery. And I'm going to spell his name in case you want to go check out his GoFundMe page. Yevhenii. Yevhenii. That's how you spell his name. I'm going to link to it, of course, in all the descriptions and on YouTube and all the major platforms, all the podcast platforms. But if you want to go support him, that's how you do it on GoFundMe. But something I want to say, I worked in the tire industry for 30 years. I worked for a company called Discount Tire. I worked in the stores for 5 years, and I was very fortunate to work my way up to corporate and do things like run our e-business, kind of start our e-business program, start our social media program. I ran our customer experience and our digital marketing, all during the course of 30 years, different responsibilities in different business units. But there are people that actually worked at Discount Tire who this happened to. Exactly the same thing. Be a good Samaritan, help somebody when you pull over, see they have a flat tire on the side of the road, especially on a freeway, and you try to be a good Samaritan and help them. Well, here's something I want to pass along to everyone. And it's kind of common sense, but I'm going to lay it out for you. If you ride a flat tire off the freeway, you are not going to damage the wheel. If your tire is already flat, You may damage the tire more to the point where it's unrepairable, but you're probably not going to, most likely, you're not going to damage the wheel. So how much are you out? Yeah, a few $100s when it comes to a tire. But when you are on the side of the road, especially when it's dark out, you are a sitting target, unfortunately. So my advice would be to never get out of the road. It's great to be a good Samaritan. It's great. We all want to do that. It's great to hear that people want to help others. That's a very important thing. But the best thing you can do at that point is to call someone who is more experienced in helping people on the side of the road, like a tow truck, possibly even the police. You cannot take it into your own hands to help those people, unfortunately, unless you do what I said and call authorities, because generally speaking, something's going to happen. And how many times we've seen it on the side of the road where I've seen people on the side of the road getting their spare tire from underneath the vehicle and their legs are dangling out. And it's a scary thing for me. Like I said, I've known people that have worked for our organization when I was working there that had this happen to them, and they worked for the organization. So something I tell my daughters and everybody that I possibly can, and now that I got this platform, I certainly share this: do not get out of your vehicle, especially on a busy road, and try to help someone with their vehicle. It's just too risky for you personally, and them too. You don't want to ask anyone to get out of the car and start pushing with you, because only bad things can happen. Get someone who has experience and the proper tools to do it for you. So I'll get off my high horse and go to headline number 2. Oh boy, this one is, when you hear this one: woman lying to boyfriend's family about needing her hands amputated, backed. And this comes from Newsweek and from courtesy of Linda Patrick. So let me read this one. This is crazy. And I'm reading it verbatim. A Gen Z woman has been backed on Reddit after joking to her in-laws about needing her hands amputated following a string of disappointing gifts. Wow. A 25-year-old woman, a self-confessed craft lover, revealed on Reddit that her in-laws repeatedly gifted her disposable craft supplies, sharing her dilemma on the Am I an Asshole subreddit. And the post quickly garnered over 8,500 upvotes. She described her frustration, which accumulated. Yeah, don't laugh at me. Yeah, go ahead and laugh. Who cares? Which accumulated 12 months ago. And this is a quote from her: "The last Christmas happened a few days before I hurt my wrist at the gym." And she said, "Nothing major, just a scrape and some bandages. But I hadn't told his family about it since I hadn't seen them. Only my family and my boyfriend knew what happened." So Christmas morning comes and we're all opening presents together. His family gave everyone else these amazing gifts: new shoes, jewelry, an iPhone, gift cards, like worth hundreds of dollars. When I opened mine, I got an empty soda bottle, some used and dirty aluminum foil, and a handful of soda tabs. That was it. This disappointment came after an earlier incident during a joint birthday party with her sister-in-law, where the latter received a Pandora charm bracelet and Apple Watch, while she received similarly thoughtless gifts. Although her boyfriend was angry, they chose to stay quiet until his family asked if she liked her presents. That's when she decided to address the issue in an unconventional way. They looked confused, so I explained very seriously that my injury was worse than it looked and that both of my hands would have to be amputated. My boyfriend nodded with a straight face and added that we hadn't told anyone yet because it was really an emotional situation for me. Their faces went white. The family appeared to be upset and apologized repeatedly before the couple left. Here's the thing. This is a quote from her: "My hands are totally fine. It was just a couple scrapes. But I was so hurt and angry about the gifts that I wanted them to realize how thoughtless they were being." All right, I'm just going to stop right there and say, yeah, you're a f***ing asshole. I don't care if people, think what you want as far as how I said that. They're thoughtless to give you, you know what? I don't know your situation, but gosh, if they're giving everyone else iPhones and you empty soda bottles, maybe, I don't know if you own a mirror. Maybe you should look into it every once in a while. But I'll tell you why you're thoughtless. I've had people on here that have had to have their hands amputated on this podcast. That's nothing to joke about. I don't know who the hell you think you are, but that's bullshit. I'm actually missing one of my hands. I don't care. I love it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to pontificate because I don't know this. I don't know the journey of having no hands, but others do. Others I've had, John Higbee comes to mind. And I tell you, that's bullshit to joke about that. And you are an asshole. And if I had your name, I'd love to be able to say her name, but she's only known as, in this article, she's only known as her Reddit name. I'm not going to talk about the reaction. If anybody wants to read this, again, it's on Newsweek. I'm sure you can just go to the search bar and type hands amputated and you can find this article. And if you're on Reddit, give her some down votes. I mean, that's disgusting. If you don't want to have hands, okay, I'm done with that. We'll go on to number 3. Let's go into something cool, something fun to talk about. So what I generally do on this now for the last, probably month and a half, is I highlight an institution, a foundation that I just happen to come across, and I read a little bit about it, and I want to pass their information on to the listeners of the We're Not Stumped podcast. And this one is called Wiggle Your Toes. This one's pretty cool. They are out of Minnesota, I believe. I want to double check. Yes, they're out of Minnesota. And I want to read their story. And they can be found, by the way, at wiggleyourtoes.org. Wiggleyourtoes.org. So here's their story. This is on the About Us page. Aaron Holm lost both of his legs in a horrific accident on January 2nd of 2007. But what shattered his body failed to dent his courage and his strength and his infectious optimism. He's been helping others regain their positive energy and spirit ever since. Armed with a laptop and a cell phone, Aaron started Wiggle Your Toes from his hospital bed. He educated himself, formed teams of friends and loved ones, and began charting a course to his new normal. Aaron returned home after only 19 days. He was joined by his 3 children upstairs and read them a story that night, the story of Wiggle Your Toes. Aaron and his dedicated team built Wiggle Your Toes so others could not just get by, but live life to its fullest. Through personalized support, practical answers, and resource tools, Wiggle Your Toes helps amputees in Minnesota and beyond keep looking and moving forward. Here's their mission: to empower those who have lost a limb to move forward, take action, and get back to life like they want. That's really awesome. Aaron, congratulations on doing that. I want to click over to their events page. They have 2 upcoming events listed on their events page. One is Wiggle Your Toes. It's a community movie event. This one happens to be in 2 days from now, so it's kind of quick. But if you want to learn more, go to wiggleyourtoes.org. The Wiggle Your Toes community is launching the holiday season with a private showing of Jingle All the Way. This fun event is a great time to meet other amputees, laugh and share, and spend time with the Wiggle Your Toes community. That is a free event. And one other event they have here listed is February 7th of 2025, Wiggle Your Toes charity winter event. Warm up your hearts at the 2025 Wiggle Your Toes charity winter event. Save the date. On Friday, February 7th, 2025, join us at the Metropolitan for an unforgettable evening of giving, loving, and laughing. So if you want to know anything about those events, go to wiggleyourtoes.org. They've got a bunch of information on here. They've got news where they've been in the press. They have a contact us. They have a donation page. They have a who we are, now what. They have a whole now what. How to move forward, legal considerations, home modifications. Wiggleyourtoes.org is a wealth of information. Congratulations to everyone who puts that on. Looks like they have a sled hockey team too. I'm going to be interviewing the sled hockey team in Arizona here shortly, and what a great sport. I've went out a couple times. Dan Moses, who was on the 4th episode of this podcast, plays on the sled hockey team in Arizona, and they've been gracious enough to come out to invite me out and do a story on them, and I can't wait. But it looks like they do some of those same events out there. They do skiing, it looks like golf. You know what they do? They go out and have fun, which is something everyone should do, whether you're an amputee or not, whether you have a limb loss or not. Go out and have fun. So that's how I'll end it, like I always do. Thank you for listening to the We're Not Stumped podcast. Go back and listen to some of the great stories that have been shared with me on this podcast. Do yourself a favor. do yourself a favor and go to wiggleyourtoes.org. Learn more about that great organization. And above all, like I say every week, everyone, have a great week.